Fever FM, the number one choice in Leeds.
I know the police avoid the term gang culture and prefer the term organised crime. Why is this?
Okay, so generally when people talk about gang culture, it brings up some unwelcome stereotypes really about the types of people that become involved in organised crime and gangs, if you want to call it that. So we tend to think of young men wearing similar sorts of clothes and generally people who aren't white joining gangs, but actually organised criminality affects all communities and all areas of Leeds and all ages, so it's more useful to talk about it as part of an organised way of committing crime and for us to tackle it that way.
Right. What different types of organised crimes do you deal with?
Okay, well, it can cover, there's a huge range of different crimes and different organised crime groups, and that can range from supplying drugs is the one that the public tend to see, but you can also laundering money or exploiting vulnerable people for money in various different ways, ranging through to stealing things and selling them on an organised scale. So it really does stretch across any different time crime you could think of. Really.
Yeah. And what are the police doing about organised crime within the Harehills and surrounding areas? I imagine you're being kept fairly busy.
We are kept busy, that's true, and as I say, it genuinely affects every part of the city and not just Harehills. We try to tailor things towards the crime type itself, so we'll tackle the people that are doing the organisation, because that's the most effective way to bring it to a halt, and we'll do that through some methods that we can't really talk about a great deal in public, as I'm sure you can appreciate.
Yeah.
But we also focus on that ground level crime that really can bring a community down, where you see people dealing drugs on the street, and we absolutely take action on that through stop searching people, seizing drugs in the example that I'm giving, and trying to support the people that have become involved in that organised crime to do something more productive with their lives. Yeah,
and what can you say to our younger listeners about the idea that criminals are untouchable? Do you have any examples of criminals who have been caught?
And I certainly do, and I've prosecuted many organised criminals who've gone to prison. I think there is that perception that, as you've said, that these criminals are untouchable because they'll present themselves as untouchable. So their focus will be on getting themselves some nice clothes or a nice car, and then that's how they recruit people into taking part in crime with them, because it looks like a nice thing to do. But I can absolutely guarantee that those people eventually get caught and go to prison. I mean, there are a lot of examples, but if you look up Mansour Hussain, and that was quite a well publicised case from Leeds, and it was well publicised on the BBC website as well, where national organised crime teams have taken £10 million from that individual, and he will have absolutely been seen as an untouchable person, and you know, the gains that he's made are short-term gains.
If someone who has been in prison that say it's like really easy, we get 3 warm meals a day, how would you comment on that?
Yeah, and again, in a previous role, I've been involved in investigating some of the most serious offences there are, and some of the most what people would see as hardened criminals, and they will absolutely say to their friends, prison's easy, you know, you get 3 meals a day, I get to see all of my friends. And I've seen many people where you close the door on their cell in the police station, and they absolutely start crying.
Yeah.
Or they realise that they've reached the point where they've been charged with a crime and they're likely to go to prison. And it really has not that I've got a great deal of sympathy for that, but it really does have a horrible effect on them, where they find it difficult to cope with.
So it's just bravado when they say it's really easy.
The number of people that want to go to prison is vanishingly slim, and I think if somebody wants to go to prison, then it says something about their home life, to be honest, and the conditions that they're living in outside of prison.
Yeah. And what is the best way to report any suspected organised crime?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's different ways you can report crime to us. You can phone the 101 if it's not an ongoing emergency. Or if you look on the West Yorkshire Police website, then there's online reporting methods. Obviously, we don't spread the fact that you've reported things to us. We don't tell everyone about it. We can treat it in confidence if you like. But there is also Crime Stoppers, and if you report things through Crime Stoppers, that information would get passed to a team like mine or a different policing team, and we wouldn't know where that information has come from. It is absolutely confidential, and nobody will ever know about it. And so you can search online for Crime Stoppers with that, or the phone number is 0800 555 111. I'd absolutely please do report concerns about crime to us. It might feel like you're not getting anywhere, and I get frustration from the public around that. But we do have good results from the public reporting things, and we wouldn't be able to do it unless the public reported things to us.
Right, we'll go now on to antisocial behaviour, and you've said yourself it's a broad topic, but can you give me a rough idea of the different types of antisocial behaviour that you deal with in your area? Yeah,
absolutely, and it'll be similar to other areas of Leeds as well. Basically, antisocial behaviour is that behaviour that on its own, if it was just one incident, people would probably describe it as annoying or a nuisance, but it's the fact that it keeps going over a long period of time. So it might not necessarily be illegal, or it might be a relatively low-level crime. But it really does have a big impact on people's lives, and it can ruin people's lives in some cases if it keeps going in a certain area. So generally you're talking about things like noise, littering, groups of people congregating on streets and creating noise, or an intimidating atmosphere, or low-level damage crimes.
Yeah.
And we tend to divide it into sort of groups of adults, or groups of children is quite common.
Yeah.
Or disputes between neighbours. There's all sorts of different ways that it can happen, but that's antisocial behaviour.
There's very different ways of it happening. I'll ask you Jabs' favourite question. Here in Harehills, we seem to have a disproportionate number of 24-hour off licences. Do you think people having access to alcohol 24 hours a day is contributing to antisocial behaviour?
My position as a neighbourhood policing sergeant for Gipton and Harehills is that there are probably too many off licences in the area, and that is a view that's often given to me by local residents as well. And I think that does cause a problem for us with the consumption of alcohol, and at times I believe it can attract people to the area to drink alcohol. We have recently objected to the opening of a new off licence in Harehills, and that was successful. And as part of our strategy to address problems associated with drinking, then we do object to off licences.
Was the
generally
one you've
speaking.
Objected to, was it along here with the other two that we've got now?
It's local. I can't remember the street name off the top of my head because you put me on the spot.
No, sorry, I'm just curious.
Just off Harehills Lane in the main shopping area for Harehills.
Still one too many if it had been allowed. But and what are the police doing to tackle street drinking? Okay,
so as with many parts of it's a national problem rather than one that's just contained to Harehills, and many areas of the country have similar problems, to the point where there's national guidance on how to deal with street drinking. And so while the police take the lead in enforcement action, so there's a public spaces protection order, which means that we can take alcohol from people while if they're drinking it in the street. It doesn't make it illegal to drink in the street. It just means that the police can take it from them, from a drinker. So the things that are really effective is working with other agencies, including within the council and with charities. So we've got a multi-agency approach to it, and we sit and we have regular meetings about how to deal with these difficulties. And there's a lot of strands to that. We've issued injunctions against some of the most problematic individuals who cause the most problems to people. And we have made several arrests based on the fact that those injunctions have come into place to keep those people out of the area. And we've also, which I think is really important, is we've managed to supply some support to those people to try and address the underlying issues and reduce the amount that they drink on a daily basis.